Welcome to the 80s and 90s Presents 99, where every day is a party like it's 1999. Here's your hosts, Jamie Fenderson and Milo Dennison.
This summer, something that happens pretty rarely happened, and that is that the euro was equal to the US dollar. So usually the euro is worth more than the US dollar, but the dollar's doing all right now, and the EU apparently not.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing, though, because that means like inflation's worse or something. I don't know about all the monetary policy stuff, but it's not necessarily a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's good if you're a tourist.
Yeah, I know.
And you're traveling on the US dollar. But
some years ago in Ireland, and I was like, damn, it's expensive. I thought I was the wealthy American, but I feel kind of like poor here. Yeah.
That's what I always liked when I went back to the States. I mean, I'm like, oh man, this is how much? Sweet. Or I'll transfer money over and it'll be like a couple £100 or a couple €100. And then it comes to like 300 and something dollar. And you're like, whoa, sweet. Or I don't know what the actual exchange rates were, but like, But not yeah, you are right, though, because if you export goods from the U.S., it's actually not a good thing because people, of course, then are spending more for your goods, which potentially decreases, or is the other way around, whether you import. I actually listened to a podcast on this, but the big impact is exports and imports. Depending on which one you are, you actually want the dollar to be worth less. This is why China is always getting harped on by the U.S. government.
Yeah, because they want to stay cheap.
Exactly. They artificially keep their currency low in relation to the dollar so that way they can sell stuff to the U.S. and people eat it up.
Yeah. So the whole euro, though, was not a thing until 1999. And you reminded me of this because I forgot about it. Because in 1999, I was partying with sailors. Like I didn't in Tokyo or whatever. I didn't really think about European monetary policy at all. So I forgot this even happened, man. You were like, hey, the euro actually became a thing in 1999. I was surprised. Like, why didn't I know about that? And then I thought back to what I was doing in 1999, and it all makes sense why I didn't know about it.
You're on the other side of the planet. You care about the yen and the whatever.
Yeah, I care about the yen.
That's the one that matters.
And we'd hit like some really cheap ports, and my dollar was just fine. So. Yeah, but it did. It happened. It went down in 1999, January 1st, 1999, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct, sir. It was first in electronic form on January 1st. So you still couldn't get actual euro, the currency, the paper cash. You could only do traveler's checks, electronic transfers, banking, all of that kind of stuff switched to the euro. But also what happened on the December 31st of 1998 is all of the countries that signed up to start with the euro, there were 11 countries then, and they locked in their exchange rates that night and said, okay, the Deutschmark is worth this many euros. So then they spent the next 3 years transitioning where people could go to their bank and start exchanging all of their currency for euros is the reason why they did that. But apparently, from everything I've read, it was all a pretty reasonably easy transition over too. Like there wasn't a lot of hiccups or problems as it went through.
My question, though, what happened to all those other currencies? Did they like burn them or what?
Yeah, they destroyed them.
They destroyed them?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so all that money. The banks would take it in and they destroy it all.
How did they destroy it? Like put in a big bonfire?
Burn! That I don't know if they shredded
Bye,
it. By
Corona!
It probably varied by country or whatever in regards to actually how they did it. So yeah, you can still, people will still have occasional French francs and stuff, but it's not valued at anything. Now it's just collector items.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Maybe they're collector items now because they're kind of rare.
Yep.
So I'd have kept my shiznit.
Some of it, especially if it was like in good condition, like a new bill.
Yeah.
Like I would have saved that. And then you could get some money for that kind of stuff at a later date. But you can't exchange it straight for cash. You couldn't go into a restaurant and pay for dinner.
No.
With your francs. And of those initial countries, of course, the UK was like, no, fuck that. We don't want to get rid of our pound. We're snobs. And so they stayed on the euro they stayed on the pound.
On the pound. Denmark stayed on
Denmark was the other one. Yep, exactly.
They had an opt-out clause or something.
Mm-hmm. They didn't want to transition to it. And the thing is, like, I think it's great as somebody who lives in Europe and travels around in Europe. It is fantastic having that one common currency when you're paying for stuff. And if you need to pay with cash, you don't always have to use your card and deal with exchange rates and that kind of stuff. And it's a pain in the ass in the UK because they're the fucking only country that uses the goddamn pound. And even worse, in the UK, let's say I go to Northern Ireland, right? And I get British pounds in Northern Ireland. The picture on it's different than the picture that you'd get here or in Scotland. So the actual pounds are different between Scotland, England, and Ireland.
Other countries, right?
Yeah. And you can go into like someplace here in London and try to pay with your pounds, legal currency, and they might like actually try not to accept it and be like, no, we don't want that. They get all like huffy about it. And
that
shit.
doesn't have
like,
the Queen.
Yeah,
that
that's exactly right.
I'm not taking that.
Yeah, get that out of here. So they get all huffy and annoyed by it. And you're like, it's currency. It's your country's
what
currency.
are you trying to pull on me?
Yeah.
So this all dates back to, there was something in the 50s called the Treaty of Rome, right? Which is kind of the precursor to what we could consider the European Union, right? And then stuff really started to go down in the 80s, right? So in 85, that's where they actually started the project for a single European market. And then they kind of figured that eventually there would be a common currency with that, right? But I think because they saw the United States and how well things work and how the fact that these states band together to be the superpower, they're like, hey, we can kind of do that same thing.
Yeah, they also had World War I and World War II, which they came out of, and was like, okay, if we could tie our countries together via a common currency and a European Union, it might reduce the chances of having another war as well.
Yeah, stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Europe's a great place and beautiful until it's not, because when they have wars, they do, right? But that's right. I think it would, like, if they said, hey, our currencies are the same and we're kind of like a United States of Europe, because you don't really see Delaware and Oregon having wars or whatnot, right? It just doesn't happen because
Texas and California a little bit, but that's just on Twitter and social media.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, then there was something in 89 called the Delors Report on Economic and Monetary Union. But that's where they proposed kind of this 3-stage plan to get to this point that they were at in 99, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Germany wanted to reunify, and UK and France were against it. And part of the
that's
understandably,
yeah. Well, I was
surprised.
I and they actually influenced the Soviets to be like, no, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising to me. But I guess if you think about the history, it kind of makes sense, right?
That's why.
It was 4 decades before. So, but that was a bad war. Germany did some bad things, but I thought they would be over it by then, right? But it seems not.
Nope.
They're still butthurt, dude. I guess understandable, right?
It's understandable. And so in order to, part of the deal in reunification was that, monetary union between the countries as well. So that kind of helps Germany basically say, okay, let us reunify and we'll get on board with this whole monetary union thing.
And it turns out they're kind of leading.
Yeah.
They kind of led it. So it's not that we're on board with it. They're kind of like the spearhead cheerleaders for the whole EU and Euro and the whole Eurozone thing. They're kind of the center of it all.
Yeah. And that was really apparent during the most recent economic crisis with Greece.
Yeah.
And Greece went into default on their loans and basically went into a big recession. And Germany was really kind of the one pushing to bail them out and loan them the money. But there's a lot to that between the two countries, because in order to get the money to pay their bills in Greece, they had to sign up to all these rules that Greece said they had to do. And they're all like, what? We don't want to do that. That sucks. Just give us our money. And Greece and Germany's like, no. If you want our money, you must agree to this.
Siesta time is over. Get to work.
But it worked, though. I mean, that's part of the benefit of that one currency was the fact that they were able to help bail them out via the European Central Bank.
Yeah. Well, and it seems to me like the UK, the UK has been traditionally kind of aloof to Europe going back centuries, but it seems to me like their constant aloofness has really put Germany kind of in a position of leadership in Europe, where it's something the UK could have had, but they're so, we're so us and stuff, that they kind of gave Germany the reins and said, okay, you can lead this whole European thing. We're doing our own thing on our island. So I don't know if that's what they wanted to do, but that's what's happened.
Well, the German economy is doing fantastic. Most of the cars you see cruising around in the streets of the UK were German manufacturers, Volkswagen.
That's because Germans make nice shit. Audis, they do.
Yep. All that kind of stuff. So
I got some German knives and they're the bomb diggity, dude. They're so good. They slice all my veg and meats like a champ. I'm like, yeah, blitzkrieg all up on my Chinese stir fry with them German knives, bro. It's so good.
Chop that shit up.
Yeah. Well, in 92, there was something called the Maastricht Treaty, if I'm not even saying that right.
I was wondering how to pronounce that as well. Maastricht.
Yeah, and that's the like where it transformed the EU or the European community into a full economic union. So it's like, yeah, this is legit now.
Yeah.
Right.
They said if you wanted to be a member, you needed to have, low budget deficits. You need to have a certain debt to income, debt ratio and stuff like that, which is funny because if you look at some of these rules, the United States would not be allowed as a member in the year with the debt spending that the U.S. government does.
Because we're so in debt. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
3% debt.
No.
What?
No.
Our country's run on debt. We owe the world. We owe the world a lot of money.
We'll loan you money, U.S., but we won't let you part of the EU.
It is a lot of criteria, though, and it's actually called the Maastricht criteria. So that's what you have to meet this criteria in order to be a euro. I don't know if it's for the currency or for the EU membership or both.
It's well, the rules are a little bit different. So you can be a member of the EU and not use the euro. So there's I have it here. How many countries are in the 27 countries are in the EU right now. And of those 27, 19 use the euro. So you can opt out, but you do still have to join the EU. You've got some of those requirements. And then there's also social requirements, like you can't be like women or second class citizens. And, they have certain social requirements.
United Federation of Planets, dude.
Absolutely. If you want to join the Federation.
You can't have caste systems and you have to have representative governments and wow.
Exactly.
Europe's got it going on, dude. Jean-Luc Picard is all up on that action.
They probably copied it from the 60s era Star Trek is really where they took it from, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, in 97, there was something, or 95, there was something called the Madrid European Summit. And that's when there were 15 member states at the time. And that's when I think they generated a timetable for when they're going to do all this action, right? The transition planning started at this Madrid European Summit.
Yep. So they grew up the plan for it. They basically decided that the term euro was going to be the currency there. They talked about what currencies were going to be converted to the euro in something called triangulation, which I didn't spend a lot of time looking that one up. And of course, that's where UK, Denmark, and Sweden were like, nah, we're good. You guys do it.
The name euro is so cool.
It is cool.
I don't know. I think we should change ours to the Amero or something.
It's annoying though, because there's so many freaking coins in the euro. So you've got €1 coins. You've got change, which is you've got a 20-cent coin, a 10-cent coin, a 1-cent coin, a 2-cent coin, a 5-cent coin.
That's worse than Canada.
Oh, it's awful.
Toonies.
Yeah. I remember once I pulled, like, I was just at work and me and a friend, we were talking about like all this change because he's from the US as well. And we both like just emptied our pockets onto the desk there, just had this massive pile of change. It's like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, that's how it was in Japan too. Like they have actually 500 yen coins, which is like $5. But it's kind of nice in Japan because everything's vending machines. So you're like getting beer and ramen or whatever just with your coins. So you're using them all the time.
Yeah, there's a €2 coin as well. You think about this, though, like if you're a stripper, how hard is it? Because like versus, ones and fives in the US, they can come up off the table, but you're throwing coin up there, man.
It's probably jingle jangle.
Yeah.
But the hot chick came out because it's all like jingle jangle, jingle jangle. Yeah.
Making money tonight.
On the stage tonight. Veronica, the strip club favorite. Jingle jangle, jingle jangle, jingle jangle. But when they did the coin minting, they had a few bills and coins, just a very few from like the Vatican and San Marino and Monaco, which are they didn't mint many of them because they're such small countries, but people kept them as collector's items. So those are actually worth kind of a lot more than their face value because they're small countries and there's not many of those around. So if you do see any coins or dollars from Vatican City or Monaco or San Marino, those little tiny city states, get that shit, bro. Keep it.
All right. I'll keep an eye out for it. I hardly ever use actual paper or coin currency anymore. It's all card nowadays. So anyway, so we're on to what, 1998 here, maybe?
Well, 97.
97?
They had something called the Amsterdam European Council, some kind of stability and growth pact. And they had this more criteria where they were saying there was constraints on relating to public finance, and there was a 3% ceiling on budget deficit, which is why you were saying like United States would never be able to join the Eurozone.
Yeah, financial sanctions, that kind of stuff. And they're the constraints that are necessary because there are so many countries in the Euro, and to have a single monetary policy, they need to actually have everybody on board because, like we saw with the whole Greece and Spain thing, if they don't stick to certain monetary policy, they'll screw everything up and bring everybody else down with them.
Yeah. And so I guess the countries can still have quite a bit of their own national fiscal policy. But like you said, they have to have some constraints. Otherwise, everybody goes down, right? It's the same here in the US. Like the states have a lot of autonomy in matters of law and things like that. But economically, they're still kind of subject to the federal rules, right?
Yeah. They're still subject to the Fed and even the national government, divvies out money that it takes in to different states for different reasons and that kind of stuff.
That all led up to January 1st of 1999, which was like the stage 3 of the economic and monetary union for the Eurozone. So like you said, it was all like that, what was it, midnight? Like your rate was fixed, man.
So your country's partying it up.
Currency.
Bankers are like, okay, let's fix that rate. And it did really well. Like when it first started off, compared to it was 1.16 to the dollar, I think is what it was. And then a couple of days later, it was up to like 1.18 to the dollar. So right away, it was valuable.
Been up there ever since until like you said, until recently, which is just, it doesn't seem like that's a good thing to me. If things were like they were for 20 plus years and then they're kind of not anymore, maybe that's good in some cases, but it just doesn't seem good to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because they're talking about a recession happening, and I guess we're going to just find out.
Yeah. Well, on the whole,
who's impacted by it.
The dictator starting a war in Europe. For the first big conflict in Europe in like 80 years. I'm sure that doesn't help.
Nope, not at all. The highest the euro ever valued against the dollar was 159 on the 14th of July of 2008. So that would have been a good day to have been a European traveler.
Yep.
Be like, America, it's like your whole country's on sale. Here's a couple of euros. Don't spend them all.
Yeah. Well, I hope our friends and listeners have enjoyed talking monetary policy.
It's exciting stuff.
That's how we're rolling today, guys.
Yep, it is.
You learned something, though. Admit it. And despite the fact that it's a pretty dry ass subject, we made it a little fun. Admit it.